So this is going to be a short video to discuss the rhesus status of your blood. So when you find out your blood type, oftentimes you'll be told A positive or B negative or AB positive. And you've probably also heard that when blood drives are going on, there's a great need for O negative blood. So there are actually multiple ways to type blood, and the ABO system is only one of them. So we've already talked about the genetics by how you inherit whether you're A or B or AB or O. That's one gene that controls your A, B, or O status. There's a second gene that actually has nothing to do with the ABO gene, called the Rhesus gene. And it's named after the Rhesus monkey, which is the monkey where it was first studied in. So Rhesus is a protein that can be made by certain people, and it's basically decorates the surface of the red blood cells, just like the ABO glycoproteins do. So if you can make this Rhesus protein, you're considered to be Rhesus positive. So if you have the big RH allele, it means you can make the Rhesus protein. Okay, oops, sorry, bad writing. Okay, and the little RH allele, this is a situation where you cannot make, this allele does not make the Rhesus protein. Okay, and so the dominant version, the dominant allele, this is dominant. So basically being able to make the protein is dominant over not being able to make the protein. So an individual who is big RH, they can make plenty of the protein. They're gonna be able to make the protein. Somebody who is big RH and then little RH, they're still going to be able to make the protein because they've got a good allele right there. Even though they've got one of these as well, they can make enough protein. They can make the decoration. Someone who is little RH, they cannot make the Rhesus protein at all. So this person would be considered Rhesus negative. So if someone says they're O negative, the O is completely separate to the negative, and the negative is just saying they cannot make Rhesus protein. If they're O positive, they're type O, but they also can make the Rhesus protein. So they would have Rhesus positive blood. Now, why do we care about the Rhesus protein? It really is irrelevant 99% of the time whether you can make this protein decoration for your red blood cells or not. It doesn't seem to impact our health in any way, except for women when they're pregnant and they're developing, and the fate of their developing fetus. So, and the problem or the issue only arises for a Rhesus negative mother who is carrying a Rhesus positive fetus. So let's first of all look at the genetics of how that can happen. Let's make a quick Punnett square here. Great. Let me start over and try and make a square. All right, so let's say the mother is Rhesus negative. So she's going to be little RH, okay? But let's say the father is Rhesus positive. So he can be big RH, he could be big RH, or he could be big RH, little RH. Either way, he's going to be Rhesus positive. So this is a Rhesus positive dad with a Rhesus negative mom. Okay, now the baby could be big RH, little RH. This one's going to be big RH, little RH. This one's going to be little RH, little RH, little RH, little RH. So these two babies would be Rhesus negative, and these two babies, this is going to be positive, this one's going to be negative. So here's how a Rhesus negative mom, this is a Rhesus negative mom right here, she could potentially be carrying in her womb a Rhesus positive baby if the father was Rhesus positive. Now, why is that a problem? Well, okay, so here's our rhesus positive father, here's our rhesus negative mother. Now, usually for the first pregnancy, it's usually okay. The mother and the baby's blood do not mix inside the mother generally. So the mother's blood goes through her blood vessels in the placenta, the baby's blood goes through its own blood vessels in the placenta. The blood doesn't merge, but nutrients, oxygen, food passes from the mother's bloodstream into the baby's bloodstream, but the mother's blood cells do not pass into the baby. Just the vessels go side by side and things move, the oxygen moves across and the nutrients move across, but the blood itself does not mix. So one of the things that the mother passes to the baby through the placenta are antibodies. And generally that's a really good thing because you want to pass your immunity or some of your immunity onto your baby so that when the baby's born and out in the world and getting exposed to bacteria and pathogens, they have some degree of immunity that was passed by these antibodies that moved into the baby's bloodstream during its gestation. However, during delivery, when the baby and the placenta are delivered from the mother, sometimes there can be tearing of the mother, and the mother's blood and the baby's blood can mingle. So, and what happens then is some of the baby's rhesus positive decorated red blood cells can get into the mother's bloodstream, usually through the trauma of birth. And when those blood cells get into the mother's bloodstream, the mother's bloodstream recognizes them as foreign because they have decorations, they have rhesus decorations that the mother's blood doesn't have because the mother is rhesus negative. And so the mother's immune system detects these abnormal or these foreign red blood cells and destroys them. And that's also not a bad thing. You want your immune system to recognize things that don't belong to you. These red blood cells do not belong to you because they came from a baby that was not you, and so so the mother's immune system attacks these red blood cells and gets rid of them, which is fine. But your immune system as a female, as a human, remembers things it's seen before. And on this diagram here, these little green Ys, these represent antibodies. And this is the mother remembering what these weird red blood cells were that she was exposed to during delivery. And so now her body is aware of what these rhesus positive red blood cells look like. And these antibodies help to fight. If she were to see these invading red blood cells, even though they weren't really invading, they weren't a pathogen or anything, but if she sees them again, she can attack them much quicker. All right, so let's fast forward to a second pregnancy. So this is the second pregnancy here. This is the first one over here. So in the second pregnancy, she is carrying another child who is, in this case, has rhesus positive blood. And she is passing her antibodies to the baby, which is generally a good thing. You can see these Y-shaped antibodies moving into the baby's bloodstream. But remember, she now has antibodies not just against diseases and viruses that she's exposed to in the everyday environment, but she also has extra antibodies to rhesus positive blood that she developed shortly after delivering the first child. And she's passing all her antibodies to the child. She can't separate the ones that she does want to pass and the ones she doesn't want to pass. So she passes anti-rhesus antibodies to the fetus, and the fetus has rhesus carrying red blood cells. So those antibodies are going to stick to the red blood cells, which you see happening here, and they're going to destroy or help to destroy the red blood cells, which is bad because the baby needs its red blood cells. And so this is usually a big deal. It's going to really impact the growing fetus's ability to make its own red blood cells and its own blood supply. So nowadays, there's actually a treatment for rhesus negative mothers. If they're carrying a rhesus positive fetus, they have well, they don't even check. If you're rhesus negative, you're going to get these injections, these shots. That what they basically do is that they give you a shot just before delivery and just after delivery of something called RhoGAM. And what RhoGAM does is it wipes out these antibodies in the mother. So it's like it's kind of wiping out the memory of the immune system for the rhesus protein, so that the second pregnancy looks just like the first pregnancy all over again, where there's no remembering what red blood cells look like, so to attack, no remembering what rhesus protein looks like. So it's kind of like resetting the mother's immune system to have like like it was in the first pregnancy. This ROGAM is it's only been around, I don't know, like um, not a great deal of time, like maybe 50 years or so. I know my mom is rhesus negative. I'm rhesus positive. She had to have a series of shots after I was born so that a second child wouldn't have this problem. Um, and before ROGAM was available, people who are rhesus negative, women who are rhesus negative, probably couldn't have two or three or four children. That the second, third, fourth. The second would definitely be have an issue if it made it to full term. It was always be born jaundiced with lack of red blood cells, and would have to go into the NICU under the lights to try and encourage red blood cell production. Um, and any pregnancy beyond the second one really wouldn't make it. So it was a big impact. So ROGAM has really changed that outcome for rhesus negative women who have rhesus positive children, meaning that they can have second, third, multiple more kids than one.